Somewhere in eastern Africa 200,000 years ago, a man sits alone on a rock. His band left this morning to hunt. He did not go. His spear is still leaning against the rock where he left it yesterday. His friends called his name. He heard them. He just could not move. His body felt like it was filled with sand. His mind felt empty in a way he had no words for. He sat there for hours, watching the sun move across the sky, not thinking about anything, just sitting, just existing, just waiting for something he could not name. If he walked into a clinic today, a doctor would ask him some questions. How long have you been feeling this way? Do you have trouble sleeping? Have you lost interest in things you used to enjoy? Do you feel tired all the time for no clear reason? He would nod to all of them. He would have no idea why a stranger was asking him these questions, but he would recognize every single feeling. Most people think depression is a modern invention. Too much pressure, too many notifications, too much social media warping our brains. Your ancestors did not have any of that, so they must have been fine, right? Not exactly. In 2017, researchers studying the Hadza, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups in Tanzania, made an unexpected discovery. Using structured clinical interviews translated into their language, they found that depression among the Hadza was not only present, but that the symptoms looked remarkably familiar. Loss of energy, loss of interest, difficulty concentrating, hopelessness, changes in appetite. The same cluster of symptoms that appears in every psychiatric textbook on the planet. The man on the rock was not lazy. He was not weak. He was depressed. He just did not have a word for it. This raises a question that turns out to have a complicated answer. Did ancient humans get depressed? And if they did, what does that tell us about our own heaviness? Here is what the evidence shows. The first thing to understand is that your brain was not designed for your life. It was designed for a world that no longer exists. Think about what that world looked like. 12 hours of daylight, constant movement, 8 to 10 miles a day, every single day. Your body was in motion from sunrise to sunset. There was no chair. There was no sofa. There was no sitting still for 8 hours staring at a rectangle. Your legs worked, your heart pumped, your muscles pulled. That was not exercise. That was life. A small group of maybe 30 to 50 people you had known since birth. Work that had a visible result. If you hunted, the group ate. If you did not hunt, everyone noticed. If you found berries, the children ate them tonight. Cause and effect were immediate and clear. There was no gap between effort and outcome. You could see the result of your work before the sun went down. Your ancestors did not wake up and wonder what their purpose was. They knew. Find food, stay alive, protect the people around you. Every single day had a clear answer to the question, why am I here? You could point to the food you gathered. You could point to the shelter you built. You could point to the child you carried. Your purpose was visible. It was physical. It was undeniable. There was no existential crisis at breakfast because there was no gap between what you did and why it mattered. Modern life removed almost every protective factor your brain evolved to need. Community became isolation. Sunlight became blue light. Movement became sitting. Purpose became scrolling. The human brain, shaped by at least 300,000 years of hunting and gathering, is now trying to navigate a world of emails, notifications, and quarterly performance reviews. The mismatch is not subtle. It is a chasm. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar found that the human brain can maintain about 150 meaningful relationships. That number appears consistently across hunter-gatherer band sizes, military unit structures, and even Christmas card lists. Your brain is wired for a tribe of 150 people. You probably follow more than 150 people on Instagram alone, and most of them would not notice if you stopped posting forever. The people who would notice, you probably talk to them less than your caveman ancestors talked to anyone. The mismatch matters because your brain treats modern stressors the same way it treated ancient threats. A difficult email from your boss triggers the same cortisol response as a predator in the bushes, except you cannot run from an email.
and you cannot fight a notification. So the alarm stays on, all day, every day. Your brain is screaming at you to do something, but there is nothing to fight and nowhere to run. The threat is not outside you anymore. It is the shape of your life itself. You are not weak. You are a Stone Age brain living in a Space Age world. Now consider this. The man on the rock was not alone. He felt alone, but he was not. Someone in his band would have noticed he did not eat. Someone would have sat next to him. In a group of 30 to 50 people, losing one person to despair was a crisis. Everyone had to care, not because they understood mental health, because survival depended on not losing anyone. One person who stops contributing makes the whole group weaker, so the group pulled him back, not with words, with presence.
In 2015, a study of the Tsimane people in Bolivia found something striking. Despite living with constant infections, injuries, and physical pain, their rates of depression were significantly lower than industrialized populations. The researchers noted a key difference. The Tsimane woke up, worked with people they had known their entire lives, contributed to the group, and slept. Every action had a visible result. Nobody asked them to write a document about what they planned to do before they did it. Nobody asked them about their quarterly goals. The same pattern appears across multiple hunter-gatherer groups. The Kung of the Kalahari, the Hadza of Tanzania, the Tsimane of Bolivia. In the 1960s, researchers studying the Kung noticed something unexpected. Adults spent about 12 to 19 hours a week securing food. The rest of their time was spent talking, visiting, playing, and resting. They worked less than you do. They socialized more than you do. They were surrounded by people they had known since birth, every single hour of every single day. What these groups share is not an absence of hardship. Their lives are physically harder than yours in almost every measurable way. What they share is the presence of things modern psychiatry now recognizes as protective factors: dense social networks, constant physical activity, sunlight exposure, clear purpose, immediate feedback on your efforts. Every single one of these is a natural antidepressant, and every single one of them has been stripped from modern life. Here is where the research gets darker. This is where we have to stop romanticizing the past and look at what actually happened when things went wrong. In 1967, the anthropologist Colin Turnbull spent months living with the Ik people of Uganda. A severe famine had broken their society. People stopped sharing food. Children as young as 3 were pushed out to fend for themselves. The elderly were left to starve alone. Their entire social fabric collapsed. And for the first time in their known history, the Ik began showing symptoms that looked exactly like clinical depression, withdrawal, hopelessness, loss of interest in everything. The same symptoms the Hadza showed. The same symptoms the man on the rock showed. The Ik were not depressed because they were hungry. They were hungry before the famine, and that did not cause depression. They became depressed when their community fell apart, when nobody cared anymore, when every person was alone. The food was not the problem. The isolation was the problem. The meaninglessness was the problem. This is a crucial distinction. Your brain can handle physical hardship. It evolved to handle physical hardship. What it cannot handle is disconnection, meaninglessness, the feeling that nothing you do matters to anyone. This is the part that hits close to home. Your world looks nothing like the Ik famine, but in one way, it does. You have more food than any human in history. You have a roof that does not leak. You have medicine that works. You can talk to anyone on the planet instantly. You have access to the entire recorded history of human knowledge in your pocket. Your ancestors would have looked at your life and thought you lived like a god. The Kung, the Hadza, and the Tsimane, living without any of this, show lower rates of depression than you do, not because their lives are easier, because their lives make sense. The man on the rock had the same feeling you have, the heaviness, the emptiness, the exhaustion that sleep does not fix. He had it in a world without any of the things you blame for your own sadness, and he had something you do not: a tribe, a purpose, a body that moved until the sun went down. That world no longer exists, but somewhere in your deepest wiring, your oldest expectation is still intact, a body beside you in the dark,
a voice calling your name when you have been sitting alone on a rock for too long. The man on the rock? Someone came for him. Someone always came.